Thank you. My talk is about a show that I have right now on exhibit in the Alaska State Museum in Juneau called Rainforest Warriors. It's a project that I started 9 years ago I worked at the local Sitka National Historical Park with the Cultural Center there. And then 9 years ago was the 200-year anniversary of the 1804 battle against the Russians. And I began researching and studying the Tlingit armor then, the armor that the Tlingit people wore in the battle. So, I traveled to the East Coast I won a fellowship with the Smithsonian Institute there. I got to explore, see their museum collections they have 19 different Smithsonian affiliated museums on the East Coast. I got to explore 10 of those museums during that time and research and see and photograph thousands of images. Well, Rainforest Warrior, this is the wall at the State Museum. The warrior here, you start out with the helmet, and then you have a wooden collar that covered the warrior's face, heavy hide armor, wooden slat armor. The wooden slat armor is woven together with sinew from local Sitka deer. You'll see some of this later that I had made with our local deer. This piece here is in the Kunstkamera Museum in St. Petersburg, Russia. After I did my research with the Smithsonian's, I went to Europe. I went through about 20 different museums in Paris, and then up to St. Petersburg, Russia, back to France, and then to the British Museum, and then back to the East Coast of the U.S. there. There in the Kunstkamera, they had all the pieces that I requested to see. They had in a store, their store building right next door to the museum. These are some of the helmets and the collars that were in their collection. They actually, when they left Sitka during the 1800s, they took these helmets with them from here, and they're now in their collection. These are in a collection. The next photo are ones that are on exhibit. Sea lion on the top, an eagle, a human with little mascots, a raven, a little wolf, and another wolf, or a bear on the end. These helmets were like your spirit helpers, designed to, you brought your ancestors with you into battle and helped to protect you, and they also were meant to intimidate your opponents. A couple close-up of some of the ones there. You can imagine these must have been quite intimidating to see a warrior coming at you in just before dark or just after dawn. Very stylized raven there. One of my favorites, a human shark helmet. Behind the ear on the lower side, you can see gill slits of the shark. The eye are actually where the nostrils of the shark would be, and the shark eyes are on top on the back side of the helmet. There's another example of a shark helmet. This one here is in the Philadelphia University Museum. Another one in the Philadelphia University Museum, a raven frog. Skin covered the back side of the helmet there. This one's in the Peabody Harvard Museum. I believe it's carved from maple wood. It's one of the heavier helmets that I saw out there. It's a banana slug, actually. A collar that covered the warrior's face. You can barely see the eye divot up in the upper. There were two eye divots there. There's a mouthpiece inside that held the helmet up into place. In the back of the helmet and the collar were a toggle and a loop that kind of worked as a hinge to hold the piece into place. Another example of a collar, those inlay pieces, it's called a percula. It comes from a red turban snail. It's a sea snail. It's a trap door to the opening of their shell. More examples there of another collar. You can see in the center of the airway, on either side of the airway, the hole there was a mouthpiece that wrapped around the inside. That's what they bit onto to hold it into place. Back in St. Petersburg, very stylized realistic-looking human helmet here, with abalone inlay for the eyes and for the teeth, and human hair for the mustache, a little goatee and hair on there. Back to Harvard here, we have a brown bear helmet. This is the actual head of the bear that's stretched over a wooden form. I grew up in hearing about the Tlingit helmets. I was always told that they were made from spruce, a spruce burl. I found some of them to be made from a spruce burl, but a lot of them were from straight grain wood, some were from maple. This one here is from red cedar. The red cedar is one of the softer woods we have, but it's covered with the animal. Most of the helmets I found with the animal fur were from carved of red cedar. This piece, copper eyes. This here is a war pick. War pick is kind of like looks like a miner's pick. The blade, the striking blade is 16 inches long. It's carved from jade, one of the hardest stones we have around here. Another war club. This is from, I believe, caribou antler. Beautifully carved. This piece is in the Philadelphia University Museum. Really dense bone there. Another war club with wooden handle and bare teeth in the form of a raven. Heavy hide armor with black foam-lined paint. The hide armor usually was two-ply hide. This piece here, in the flap, you can barely see a little piece of wood sticking out there. Normally, over the outside of your hide armor, you'd have wooden slat armor that's woven together. Well, this one here, they put it on the inside, kind of hiding it, I guess masking it from your opponents. I guess if you got hit with a war club or a dagger, and I guess they kind of probably would have thought they were kind of invincible there because it's hidden inside the garment. Another piece of slat armor rods and slat woven together with sinew. This piece is actually turned inside out. Another example, the hide armor with a bear image painted on there. Steel dagger, double-ended, double-bladed, with a sheath there. The thong or the strap coming off there that was used to tie the weapon to your wrist. Chinese coin armor. The Tlingits here got the Chinese coin through trade. There was the fur trade that brought the Russians here. Well, they brought the furs to China where they got top dollar for it and brought it back. The money itself didn't mean anything to the Tlingit here, but having that handy hole in the middle, they were able to sew it to the hide and kind of like the chain mail that the Russians were wearing when they were here. Here's in my studio at Raindance Gallery. This is yew wood, slatwood, sinew, local Sitka black-tailed deer, and you see some of the cordage here. This is the most time-consuming piece in my whole show was making the cordage and then putting it together. Putting it together took a couple of days, but the cordage took months to make. On my workbench, and you can see the back piece there, the front panel. Assembling the show there in the gallery, we had 6 mannequins set up and pieced it all together. I started the show, like I said, 9 years ago. Well, I agreed to doing a solo show at the State Museum last summer, and so all winter long, the gallery was more like a sweatshop than a gallery. We had tables and sewing up, and that's a female warrior wearing a yew wood helmet there. In the show, she's not wearing that helmet. We were just setting them up and trying to figure out, piecing it all together. During our gallery walk, we had some visitors come in, and they visited our warriors there. Some of the copper daggers that I made over the winter, every mannequin warrior has a dagger and a carved pommel or traditionally the daggers were made from copper here. I showed you my jade war club, or the one I saw. This is my jade war club. It's not quite 16-inch long piece of jade, but it's my first time doing real carving with jade. Yew wood handle on that. In the museum, it's a raven warrior and the female with a dagger and a marten helmet, the Chinese coin armor, wood slat leggings on the raven warrior, the moccasins and all the footwear, moccasin pants. I didn't do any of the sewing on that. I had Christina sitting down here. She was in the gallery working on all that stuff. But the helmets and the other pieces, I mostly did with help. Brain tan, Sitka black-tailed deer, moccasin pants. We researched these over at the Sheldon Jackson Museum. They had a few examples of these, and we figured out how to do it from there. It's a yew wood helmet with a female on it. There are 90 two known helmets out there in museum collections and in private collections. Only one of them has a female portrait on it. That one's in the Branly Museum in Paris. It's on loan to the Louvre right now. So this helmet was inspired by that one helmet. The heavy hide armor, you see the design underneath there. I chose not to put a design on the outside of the slat armor, just kind of leave a little mystery as to what's there, kind of like some of the pieces I saw in the museum collections. Human bear helmet on this guy, there's the Chinese coin armor. I started that piece about 9 years ago, and last winter I had a friend come down from Anchorage and sewed on a couple more hundred of those Chinese coins while I was working on the other pieces. There's a full U-wood helmet, U-wood collar, U-wood bow, U-wood dagger. I have in historic, I haven't seen any of the armor that was actually with U-wood. It was just a beautiful wood, and I thought I'd challenge myself and make that whole piece there with the U-wood. Heavy buffalo hide on this piece also. By coincidence, the painting on the wall there in the museum matched the color of my mannequins. That was not planned, it just happened. And the paintings on the wall, those are, well, one by Bill Holm and the other one by Ray Troll. Those are actually off my wall from out of my living room at home that are in the show there now. Final show, final piece there. Thank you.